Ever heard of a people who built Africa's greatest stone cities, traded gold with distant empires, and still danced under the stars to honor their ancient gods? Meet the Kalanga of Zimbabwe. From the majestic ruins of Great Zimbabwe to vibrant festivals today, their story is a hidden gem of African history. Join me to uncover their epic journey. Hit that play button and let's dive in. The Kalanga in modern day Zimbabwe. Today, the Kalanga, also known as Vakalanga, are the second largest people group in Botswana, though their numbers are greater in Zimbabwe. A small number also lives further north in Tanzania. Geographic influence. While estimates vary, the Kalanga population in Zimbabwe is generally considered to be around 273,000. They are a vibrant community, mostly in Matabeleland, Ndebele Heartland, Plumtree, Ulilamangwe, Cholocho, and Matobo, where Ndebele culture dominates. This proximity has led to intermarriage, shared festivals, and Ndebele language use, making some Kalanga appear more Ndebele socially. Masvingo and Shona areas. Kalanga communities near Shona-speaking regions like Masvingo often align more with Shona customs and language due to intermingling and colonial classification. Modern identity. Today, the Kalanga assert their distinct identity, separate from both Ndebele and Shona. Organizations like the Kalanga Language and Cultural Development Association promote Kalanga in schools and the media, resisting assimilation. However, their identity can feel split. Are they more Ndebele? In Matabeleland, many Kalanga identify with Ndebele culture due to historical context and modern social ties. They may participate in Ndebele ceremonies or speak Ndebele fluently. Or are they more Shona? Linguistically and historically, the Kalanga are closer to Shona, especially through shared Bantu roots and the Great Zimbabwe legacy. Some Kalanga in Shona majority areas lean toward Shona identity, distinctly Kalanga. Most Kalanga proudly claim their unique heritage, emphasizing their language, Mwali, religion, and traditions like pottery and music, which set them apart from both groups. So what am I trying to say? The Kalanga are a vibrant mix, neither fully Ndebele nor Shona, but with influences from both. If we had to pick, their linguistic and historical ties lean slightly closer to Shona, but their modern social and geographic context in Matabeleland often makes them appear more Ndebele in everyday life. Ultimately, they are a unique people, blending the best of both worlds while carving their own path. What are the Kalanga people's lives like? First, let's look at their culture. The Kalanga have always taken on the role of rainmakers. They go to the Njelele shrine in Zimbabwe to plead for rain. The Kalanga perform a ritual that involves wearing a white shirt and black skirt. The latter represents rain clouds. The Njelele shrine remains a spiritual hut where the Kalanga connect with Mwali. Cultural festivals like the Domboshava Festival in Botswana and events at Luskingo in Zimbabwe celebrate their dances like Indazula and Ozana. Despite past assimilation, their animal-based surnames, Moyo, Ndlovu, Swanda, and rich traditions keep their identity strong. Efforts are underway to preserve their language and history, ensuring the Kalanga legacy shines bright for future generations. Their traditions, like rainmaking at the Njelele Shrine and dances like Ndazula, are unique but share similarities with Shona spiritual practices, for example, reverence for ancestors. However, in Matabeleland, Kalanga communities often adopted Ndebele customs like Lobola, bride price practices due to historical assimilation. What's the origin and meaning of the name Kalanga? The name Kalanga is steeped in history with a few theories about its origin and meaning, drawn from oral traditions and linguistic studies. Let's start with the historical context. The name may also relate to their leadership in Great Zimbabwe and later kingdoms. The Kalanga were called the Vakalanga, people of Kalanga, to distinguish them from other Bantu groups like the Karanga, Shona, or Ndebele. Over time, Kalanga became a marker of their distinct identity, especially after Ndebele Congress in the 1830s. Looking at the linguistic roots, the term Kalanga likely comes from the Tichikalanga word kulanga, meaning to spread or to scatter. This could reflect their ancient migrations from Northeast Africa, Sudan, Ethiopia to Southern Africa by 100 AD, spreading their culture across regions like Zimbabwe and Botswana. Looking at the cultural interpretation, some Kalanga elders say the name means people of the sun or light bearers, tying to their role as early innovators. For example, leopard culture, Mapungubwe. The sun motif appears in their pottery and spiritual symbols, suggesting a connection to life-giving forces. Cultural and linguistic clues. Language. Ichikalanga is closer to Shona linguistically, sharing Bantu roots, but it's a separate language, not a dialect. In contrast, Ndebele, a Nguni language, is more akin to Zulu and Xhosa. Many Kalanga today are bilingual, speaking Tichikalanga and either Ndebele or Shona, depending on their region. Surnames and clans. Kalanga surnames like Moyo, Ndlovu, and Swanda appear in both Ndebele and Shona communities, but their animal-based totems, for example, heart for Moyo, are a hallmark of Kalanga identity. Some surnames were Ndebeleized during the 19th century, blurring lines. The history of the Kalanga people in Zimbabwe. Ancient beginnings before 100 AD. Picture this. Over 2,000 years ago, the Kalanga, a Bantu-speaking people, trekked from the lands of Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia in Northeast Africa, chasing fertile lands and new horizons. By 100 AD, they had settled south of the Zambezi River in what's now Zimbabwe, Botswana, and parts of South Africa and Mozambique. These early Kalanga were pioneers setting down roots. Mind you, this was long ago, many centuries before Zimbabwe even had a name. The Kalanga people were already living, farming, and building communities in the lands of Southern Africa. Their story is rich, full of movement, strength, and survival. What differentiates the Kalanga people with other groups? The difference is that the Kalanga people settled south of the Zambezi over 2 millennia ago. By 100 AD, they had already settled in the lands now called Zimbabwe, Mozambique, South Africa, and Botswana, with most groups arriving between 500 and 1700 years later. By the earliest centuries, the Kalanga had established what archaeologists have called the leopard scopy culture. What is the leopard scopy culture? A leopard scopy culture is the name of a place in Zimbabwe where the first evidence of this culture was found. Kopi means a small hill. This culture is known for being one of the early farming communities in that area. The people grew crops like millet and sorghum, and they kept animals like cattle, goats, and sheep. They also made beautiful clay pots, used iron tools, and lived in small villages. Archaeologists found remains of houses, tools, pottery, and animal bones, which tell us how these people lived. Leopard copy culture is important because it is linked to the early ancestors of the people who later built Great Zimbabwe, a famous ancient stone city. So, in short, leopard copy culture was an early African farming society known for its pottery, cattle keeping, and as a possible beginning of the Great Zimbabwe civilization. Having clarified leopard copy culture meaning, let's continue from where we left. We were talking about the leopard copy culture 500 AD to 1000 AD. Fast forward to 500 AD, the Kalanga were thriving. They created the leopard copy culture, the first mixed farming society in sub-Saharan Africa. Imagine fields of crops, herds of cattle, and skilled artisans mining gold. Their ancestors helped build the Mapungubwe Empire, which was the first uniform kingdom in southern Africa. The Kalangas were not just farmers, they were innovators, smelting metals and trading with far-off lands. By 1000 AD, they'd built the first city-state in the region, Mapungubwe, at the confluence of Limpopo and Shashe rivers. This bustling hub was a trading powerhouse, swapping ivory, furs, and gold for glass, beads, and cotton from the Indian Ocean coast. Stone-walled villages dotted the landscape, showing their knack for architecture. At Mapungubwe, archaeologists have found several other artifacts made from the precious minerals there, the most famous being the golden rhino, which now forms the Order of Mapungubwe, South Africa's highest national honor. Furthermore, from Mapungubwe, the Kalanga expanded their state, moving to and constructing Great Zimbabwe and later Kami. In all these areas, they carried on their industries and trade. They traded with Arabians, Chinese, Ethiopians, Portuguese, and Phoenicians. The rise of Great Zimbabwe, 1200 AD to to 1450 AD. The Kalanga people went on to help build two other kingdoms in the centuries that followed. By the 13th century, the Kalanga were on the move again, heading north to Masvingo, where they built the iconic Great Zimbabwe. 13th to 15th centuries. The rulers of Great Zimbabwe, likely Kalanga or Proto-Kalanga, oversaw a trading empire. While specific names are lost to time, their stone walls and soapstone beds symbolize Kalanga ingenuity. Great Zimbabwe was no ordinary town. It was a cultural, political, and trade capital connecting the Kalanga to Arabia, China, and even Portugal. Great Zimbabwe was a testament to their ingenuity with intricate pottery, weaving, and those famous soapstone bed carvings. By 1450, droughts, land shortages, and leadership disputes led to its decline. Some Kalanga stayed, blending with other groups like the Karanga, while others moved on. The Torwa and Kami era, 1450 AD to 1685 AD. As Great Zimbabwe faded, the Kalanga didn't miss a beat. A powerful kingdom emerged in the region, the Kingdom of Butao, ruled by Kalanga-speaking people. The Kingdom of Butao, also known as the Torwa Empire, thrived in what is now southwestern Zimbabwe, especially around areas like Kami and Dlondlo. Its capital was at Kami, just west of modern Bulawayo. Kami was a masterpiece of stonework with chevron patterned walls that echoed Great Zimbabwe's glory. The Kalanga, led by rulers like Sipundule or Chibundule, kept trading gold and ivory. Now with the Portuguese, they were pastoralists, growing crops like pumpkins and beans, and their pottery was the talk of the region. This was a time of peace and prosperity, with the Kalanga's Mwali religion flourishing, centered around sacred sites like the Njelele Shrine, where rainmaking ceremonies honored their supreme deity. The Rozi Empire and Changamire Dombo, 1684 AD to 1830s. Around the 1600s, the Rozi Empire rose to power. They were closely linked to the Kalanga people, and many Kalanga were part of this new kingdom. The Rozi were strong warriors and clever leaders. During this time, Kalanga culture grew deeper. They had traditional healers, rainmakers, and spiritual leaders who played big roles in the community. They fought off Portuguese invaders and kept control of the gold trade. Enter Changamire Dombo, a part Kalanga hero who shook things up. In 1684, he rebelled against Mutapa Kingdom, kicked out the Portuguese, and founded the Rozi Empire with its capital at Dana Ngombe. The Rozi, a mix of Kalanga and other groups, were fierce, with a professional army and guns to protect their trade routes. They raised cattle, crafted pottery, and kept the stone building tradition alive. In the 1800s, everything began to change. New groups like the Ndebele, led by King Mzilikazi, came into the area from the south. They conquered many local groups, including some Kalanga communities. Some Kalanga were absorbed into the Ndebele kingdom, while others kept their own ways. By the 1830s, trouble had already loomed. The Ndebele, led by Mzilikazi, forced many Kalanga to pay tribute. or assimilate. Some Kalanga surnames like Moyo or Ndlovu were Ndebeleized into Zizio or Ncube, but their spirit endured. Colonial challenges 1880s to 1980. Then in the late 1800s, British colonizers came. The land was taken. People were forced to work on white-owned farms or in mines. The Kalanga, concentrated in Matabeleland, faced tough times. Their land was taken and colonial policies pushed assimilation, with many adopting Ndebele or Shona languages. Missionaries and colonial officials sometimes muddled Kalanga identity, labeling their language a Shona dialect despite its unique roots. Yet the Kalanga held fast to their culture, with the Mwali cult and rainmaking rituals keeping their spirituality alive. Fighting for freedom 1900s. In the 1900s, Kalanga people, like many other people in Zimbabwe, joined the fight for independence. They took part in the Liberation War that would one day end white colonial rule. By the 1960s, they joined the fight for independence with figures like Tacius, Malan George, Sulundika rising as freedom fighters in ZAPU. Zimbabwe won independence in 1980, but the Kalanga's distinct identity was often overshadowed by larger Shona and Ndebele groups. But even after Zimbabwe became independent in 1980, Kalanga communities still faced challenges. Their language was not taught in schools and their history was often forgotten. A new dawn 2000s up to present day. In post-colonial Zimbabwe, we see a rising interest from Kalanga elites lobbying the government to recognize the Kalanga language. In recent years, things have started to change. The Kalanga language is now recognized as one of Zimbabwe's official languages. There are efforts to revive Kalanga culture, teach the language in schools, and celebrate Kalanga heroes. Today, the Kalanga people live mostly in the Matabeleland South and Bulilima Mangwe areas near the border with Botswana. They are proud of their roots, speak a beautiful language, and still honor their ancient traditions, music, dance, storytelling, and spiritual wisdom. The Kalanga spirit lives on. From ancient kingdoms to modern Zimbabwe, the Kalanga people have walked a long, powerful path. They are builders, warriors, dreamers, and survivors. And their story is far from over. It's still being written today. There has been a lively debate about whether the Kalanga people of Zimbabwe lean more towards Ndebele or Shona identity. I've touched this subject earlier, but let's explore it a bit more deeper. Many Kalanga people speak Ndebele fluently, especially in Matabeleland, and some even identify as Ndebele due to intermarriage and shared history. But at home or in rural areas, men still speak Kalanga, practice Kalanga traditions, and are proud of their heritage. So are they more Ndebele? Influenced by Ndebele? Yes. Originally part of Ndebele? No. The Kalanga are their own people, more related to early Shona groups, but shaped over time by contact with both major groups. Let me give you a quick comparison of Kalanga, Shona, and Ndebele differences and similarities. Like I explained earlier, the Kalanga are neither fully Ndebele nor fully Shona. They are a distinct Bantu group with their own unique identity, history, and language, Tikalanga. However, their geographic and historical ties to both the Ndebele and Shona have created some overlap. So let's break it down. Linguistically, language roots. Kalanga language is part of the Shona language family, a subgroup of Bantu languages. It shares many words and grammar patterns with Shona dialect like Sezulu or Karanga, but it is still distinct. So in terms of language roots, the Kalanga are closer to Shona. Let's look at it from a historical context. Ancient roots. The Kalanga predate both the Ndebele and Shona in Zimbabwe, arriving south of the Zambezi by 100 AD. Some historians even believe the Kalanga people helped build the great stone walls of Mapungubwe in present-day South Africa, and later the famous Great Zimbabwe, massive stone cities that rose without any cement. These places were centers of trade and power, and the Kalanga were right in the middle of it all. Ndebele arrival 1830s. When the Ndebele led by Msilikazi arrived in Matabeleland, they conquered the Kalanga-led Rhozi Empire. Many Kalanga were absorbed into Ndebele society, adopting Ndebele customs, surnames. For example, Moyo became Shizio, and even speaking Ndebele. This created a strong Ndebele influence in areas like Ulilamangwe and Plumtree. Shona connection. The Kalanga share linguistic and cultural ties with the Shona, as both are Bantu groups. Some colonial records and modern classifications labeled Kalanga as a Shona dialect, though linguists confirm it's distinct. The Kalanga, a Shona subgroup, have historical links to the Kalanga through Great Zimbabwe, but the Kalanga maintained their unique identity. Kalanga, notable chiefs and kings. The Kalanga have a rich history of leadership from ancient kings to modern chiefs, while their traditional kingdoms like Mapungubwe, Great Zimbabwe, and Rhozi no longer exist. Chiefs today play a vital role in cultural community governance. Here are some notable figures, past and present, but it's not an exhaustive list. Historical kings. Tripundule, a key ruler of the Torwa kingdom, 1450 to 1685. He led the Kalanga at Kami, overseeing a golden era of trade and stone architecture. His name is still revered in oral histories. Changamire Dombo, 1684 to 1695. A part Kalanga warrior king who founded the Rhozi Empire. He drove out the Portuguese and united Kalanga and other groups, leaving a legacy of resistance. His capital at Danangombe was a hub of Kalanga culture. Why Changamire Dombo is called a Rhozi king? This duality stems from historical, cultural, and political context, and I'll break it down to clarify why both labels apply. Founder of the Rhozi Empire. Changamire Dombo, a powerful leader in the late 17th century, around 1684 to 1695, established the Rhozi Empire after rebelling against the Mutapa Kingdom and expelled the Portuguese influence from Zimbabwean plateau. The Rhozi Empire centered at Danangombe near modern Bulawayo, was a dominant state that united various groups, including the Kalanga, under a single political banner. As the empire's founder, Dombo is celebrated as the quintessential Roji king. Cultural and political identity. The Roji were a confederation of Bantu-speaking groups including Kalanga, Karanga, a Shona subgroup, and others. The term Roji or Lozwi in some dialects referred to the ruling elite and their state, not necessarily a single ethnic group. Dombo's leadership created a powerful Roshi identity, and his kingship is tied to his multi-ethnic empire, which dominated until the 1830s. Historical records, oral traditions, and early European accounts often describe Dombo as the Mambo, king of the Roshi, emphasizing his role in building and centralized state with a professional army and stonewalled capitals. This label stuck in historical narratives, especially the Roshi Empire was a major regional power. Why Changamire Dombo is called a Kalanga king? Kalanga heritage. Changamire Dombo was of Kalanga descent, born into a community with deep roots in the Kalanga cultural and linguistic group. The Kalanga, as we have discussed, were key players in earlier states like Mapungubwe and Great Zimbabwe, and their heartland was in the region where Dombo rose to power, modern Matabeleland South. His Kalanga ancestry ties him directly to this ethnic group, making him a Kalanga king in a cultural sense. Regional base. Dombo's power base was in Kalanga-dominated areas, particularly around Butua, the Torwa state successor, and Danangombe, where Kalanga traditions, language, Kalanga, and practices like the Mwali religion were strong. His leadership resonated with Kalanga communities who saw him as their champion. Cultural continuity. The Kalanga were the backbone of the Roshi Empire's early leadership and population. Dombo's use of Kalanga stone building techniques like those at Danangombe and spiritual practices tied to Mali, shrines, for example, Njelele, cemented his role as the Kalanga leader, even as he ruled a broader Roshi state. Why both labels make sense? Overlapping identities. The Roshi Empire was a political entity that included multiple ethnic groups, with the Kalanga as a core component. Think of it like a king ruling a diverse kingdom, but hailing from one specific group. Dombo was a Kalanga by heritage, ethnic identity, and a Roshi king by political role, much like a modern leader might be both a cultural icon of their hometown and a national president. Historical context. In the 17th century, ethnic lines were fluid and Roshi was more a political and dynastic label than a strict ethnic one. Dombo's Kalanga roots didn't conflict with his Roshi kingship. Instead, they reinforced his legitimacy among Kalanga subjects within the empire. Modern interpretations. Today, Kalanga cultural revivalists emphasize Dombo's Kalanga heritage to highlight their community's historical prominence, while broader Zimbabwean histories call him a Roshi king to reflect the empire's multi-ethnic scope. Both perspectives are valid, depending on whether you focus on his ethnic origins, Kalanga, or his political legacy rosy. A vivid picture. Imagine Changamire Dombo standing on a hill in 1684, spear in hand, his Kalanga warriors chanting in Tichi Kalanga as they defend their land from Portuguese invaders. Behind him, the stone walls of Danangombe gleam, a testament to Kalanga craftsmanship. He is a Kalanga hero, rooted in his people's traditions, but also a rosy king, uniting diverse groups under a mighty empire. His legacy is like a bridge connecting the Kalanga's ancient past to Rose's epic reign. To hear the full story of how he drove the Portuguese permanently out of Zimbabwe Plateau, check out the video link in the description. Also, check it under the history playlist. You don't want to miss this story. Wrapping it up, was Changamire Dombo a Kalanga hero or a Rosy legend? The answer is both. Changamire Dombo is called a Rosy king because he founded and led the Rosy Empire, a powerful multi-ethnic state, and a Kalanga king because of his Kalanga heritage and leadership within their cultural heartland. Both titles reflect his dual role as a cultural icon and a political unifier. Modern chiefs. Chief Chichilili Nzov, a prominent Kalanga chief in Matabeleland South, known for advocating cultural preservation and community development. He is active in promoting Kalanga education and resolving local disputes. Chief Bango, based in Bulila Mangwe, is a respected leader who supports Kalanga festivals and works to maintain the Njelele Shrine's spiritual role. His leadership bridges tradition and modernity. Chief Menwe, another influential figure in Plumtree. Chief Menwe champions land rights and cultural revival, often hosting community events to teach youth about Kalanga heritage. These chiefs, under Zimbabwe's traditional leadership system, act as custodians of culture, mediate disputes, and represent Kalanga interest in local governance. While no single king rules today, these chiefs carry the legacy of their royal ancestors. Questions and answers about the Kalanga people often asked. Number 1, who are the Kalanga people and where do they live? The Kalanga are a vibrant Bantu group with roots stretching back over 2,000 years, known for building Africa's iconic stone cities like Great Zimbabwe. Today, about 273,000 Kalanga live mainly in Zimbabwe's Matabeleland South, Plumtree, Bulila Mangwe, and Matobo, and parts of southern Botswana. They are a proud community, blending ancient traditions with modern life, speaking their unique Tichi-Kalanga language. Question number 2. Did the Kalanga really build Great Zimbabwe? Absolutely. The Kalanga or their ancestors were key players in constructing Great Zimbabwe around 1200 and 1450 AD. They traded gold and ivory with far-off lands like China and Arabia, making Great Zimbabwe a trade hub. Those famous soapstone bed statues, Kalanga craftsmanship at its finest. Question number 3. What makes the Kalanga's culture unique? The Kalanga shine with their distinctive Kalanga language, energetic dances like Ndazula and Ozana, and intricate pottery with geometric designs. The Amwali religion, centered at sacred sites like Njelele Shrine, involves rainmaking ceremonies that feel like stepping into a spiritual time machine. Their animal-based surnames like Moyo, Heart, or Ndlovu, Elephant, tie them to ancient totems. Question number 4. How do the Kalanga keep their traditions alive today? The Kalanga are thriving. They teach Kalanga in Zimbabwean schools, broadcast it on radio, and celebrate at festivals like Dombo Shava in Botswana. Chiefs like Ndlovu and Bango lead cultural revival, while youth mix traditional dances with modern vibes, keeping the Kalanga spirit alive in 2025. Question number 5. Were the Kalanga part of any famous kingdoms? Oh yes, the Kalanga were behind Mapungubwe, Africa's first city-state, 500 to 1000 AD, Great Zimbabwe and the Rose Empire, led by the fierce Changamire Dombo in the 1680s. He kicked out Portuguese invaders and built a powerhouse at Dana Ngombe. Their stone architecture and trade networks made them legends in southern history. Question number 6. Are the Kalanga the same as the Shona or Ndebele? Nope. They are distinct. The Kalanga share Bantu roots with the Shona, and their language is closer to Shona than Ndebele. But living in Ndebele-dominated Matebele land means many adopted Ndebele customs, like speaking Ndebele or using surnames like Ncube. Think of them as a unique blend, proudly standing apart with their own identity and history. Question number 7. Why should we care about the Kalanga today? The Kalanga story is a hidden gem of African heritage. Their ancient cities shaped Zimbabwe's history, and their modern revival through language, dance, and spirituality inspires us all. By learning about them, you are uncovering a culture that's still shaping Zimbabwe's future. Plus, their festivals are a blast. Who wouldn't want to join the party? Summary conclusion. The roots of the Kalanga people stretch way back into ancient times. They are believed to be among the early Bantu-speaking people who moved south from Central Africa. These early Kalanga ancestors were skilled farmers, iron workers, and builders. The Kalanga were powerful in their own right before both the Shona and the Ndebele kingdoms rose to power. But later, they were influenced by the Shona-speaking kingdoms like Great Zimbabwe, Utau, and the Rose Empire. Then in the 1800s, the Ndebele under the King Mzilikas came from the south and settled in Matebele land, conquering or absorbing many Kalanga communities. Over time, many Kalanga people adopted Ndebele customs, names, and even language, especially in public or official life. Are Kalanga people more Shona than Ndebele? The Kalanga are neither Ndebele nor Shona. They are their own distinct ethnic group with their own culture, history, and language, TG Kalanga. But if we are comparing influences, they are historically more closely related to the Shona, but have been strongly influenced by the Ndebele over time due to geography and history. The Kalanga today are a dynamic people, keeping their language, dances, and Mali faith alive while navigating modern Zimbabwe. Their chiefs like Ndlovu and Bango are cultural torchbearers, continuing the legacy of kings like Changamire Dombo. The name Kalanga, possibly meaning spreaders or light bearers, captures their far-reaching influence and enduring spirit. From Njelele's sacred hills to vibrant festival stages, the Kalanga shine brightly. Today, Kalanga people are reclaiming their heritage with pride. The Tichi Kalanga language, once sidelined, is now taught in Zimbabwean schools and used in the media. There you have it, a whirlwind tour of the Kalanga's incredible journey from ancient pioneers to modern day culture keepers. They have built empires, weathered invasions, and kept their traditions alive with flair. Which Kalanga fact blew your mind? Let me know. Like, subscribe, and share to spread their story to boost engagement. The end.